So I'm just going to demonstrate the method to do fecal egg counts. So the first thing I've got is a fresh sample of sheep poo, and I'm going to want to weigh out 10 grams. So I'm just going to fold down the bag so it will sit on my balance, and then tear it, and then measure out 10 grams. And make sure I put it gently into the bag. So I've got a bit much, so I'll just take a little bit out. And that's 10 grams there. Just going to move this out of the way, and likewise move the balance. So I've got my sample in a bag. The next thing I want to do is basically, we've got to add a liquid to try and get the eggs out of here. So I've just pulled my bag up, and the first thing I'm going to do is add 30 milliliters of just normal tap water. Go. And I'll put the tap water into the bag. And I'm going to want to sort of mix all the sample and try and break down any material within it, just by rubbing with my thumb and index finger. The more time I spend doing this, the more it sort of frees the eggs within the sample so that I can get them for later. Okay, so that's it pretty well mixed. The next thing I want to do is add a saturated salt solution, which will help to split our eggs from the fecal matter. So I'm going to measure, firstly it's 100 ml of the salt solution, and pour it into the bag as well. And I just want to repeat what I did with the water and just make sure the sample is well mixed and that there's no real sort of hard clumps or anything like that. Basically just trying to free all the eggs. So I'm happy that that's well mixed, and I'm going to take a beaker and I want to empty the contents very carefully into my beaker. Get out as much as I can and then dispose of the bag in my waste bin. To get the eggs to float above any undigested plant material, I'm going to add even more of the salt solution. So once again, I'll measure out 100 milliliters of our saturated salt and mix it in with the beaker. And I want to give it a good stir. There are still plant fibers within the solution, so I need to filter it. For this I'm going to use just another sieve and into the beaker, or into a fresh beaker. So just gently pour, being careful not to overfill the sieve. It takes just a bit of time as it starts to clog. I can very gently with my spatula move some of the plant matter out of the way. So I'll let this one go down completely. And then I'll tip, and you can see the undigested plant matter. So before I carry on filtering, because this was blocking, I'm just going to tip that into my waste bin. Then it will be a little bit easier to filter the next lot. I'm going to want to filter this entire solution by just repeating what I've done. So now I've filtered all of the eggs inside the sort of fecal flotation solution. So we should only have our salt solution and our eggs left in here. There will also be some tiny fragments of plant matter, but we'll see them under the microscope. So I'm just going to want to very gently stir. This will help to lift my eggs up off the bottom if some of them have settled. And I've got this McMaster slide, and it's got these little divides, and I'm going to fill through the sides of each of these wells so that I can count on the grid. So firstly, I'm going to put it onto a piece of paper to do this. And I'm also going to move my microscope a little bit closer, because ultimately I'm going to have to examine it under the microscope. Again, I'll also move the stage down as far as it can so that I don't hit the lens with the sample. So gently agitate, and I'm going to squeeze all the air out of my pipette and then go in just below the surface and fill it up. I'm trying to make sure that there's no air bubbles in this, as it will affect my chamber. And then I'll hold it to the side. I will also fill the second chamber with the camera directly above it so it's easier to see, and just hold it and just keep squeezing in. So I've filled up the first section of my McMaster slide, and if I just grab a spatula, you can see the grid here. You can also see there's a bit of a divide on this side, which is made to sort of make it easier for filling. So it's got a gap there, so I want to make sure I'm holding my pipette up to here as I fill the second. So just so you can see, I'm sorry if the camera's a bit shaky, I've already filled up a pipette with the other, and I want to smoothly push it out. Be a bit easier for you because the slide won't be running away. And I want to try and make sure there's no air bubble, and look, it fills the whole grid. So once that's done, I'm just going to reach for a piece of paper towel, and I want to dry the bottom of the slide. And then if I spin the camera back just slowly, I've got my microscope beside me. It's got a little clip. I'm going to see if I can do this one-handed. It might not work. I'm going to want to put my slide into this clip, and that will then allow me to move it back and forth under the light. So I'll just switch on the microscope at the back, and then I'm going to want to look down the eyepieces and move it up, line it up so that one of the grids, I'm actually just going to switch the lights off so you can see what I'm talking about, but I want to line it up so that one of these grids is essentially right above the light plate, and it's easier to look for one of the corners, and then focus for the grids, and then we're going to go up and down each of these grids to do the total count of different fecal eggs within the sample.